Hello there, good noon and a very warm welcome to BYJU'S exam prep channel that is dedicated to your success in B-School exams. My name is Vikrant and today we plan to go ahead and work on this very important question type called Parajumbles. Now, I am calling it important because it has always been a part of the CAT exam. Now, when I say always, I mean, of course, there are exceptions. 2006 was one of those years when we did not have a parajumble question in the CAT. But barring that, you've always had parajumbles, and they are also a part of practically every other exam that you plan to write. So, do we get parajumbles in XAT? Yes. IFT? Yes. TISNET? Yes. Whichever other exams that you plan to write, you would encounter parajumbles. The only difference is that in the CAT, they have been non-MCQ question types for quite a few years now. On the other hand, when I talk about these other exams, they are typically multiple choice questions. So they are going to be easier because you have some more, in a way, additional clues clues in the form of the answer choices, and you can use elimination approach to become better. But apart from that, if you have any issue, any concern with parajumbles, or for that matter anything else, please make sure that you drop me a message in the chat box below and I will get back to you on it. So Sankirtan or Sankirtana, Abhishek, Priya, how are you doing? Good afternoon everyone. मैंने good noon क्यों बोला आज वैसे? I normally take a session at 12. मेरे दिमाग में good noon रह गया. हे भगवान. So I'm not taking a session at 12 today, so it's good afternoon for sure. So, कोई सवाल, कोई question, या फिर हम चलें parajumbles की ओर? And in case you are somebody who's a fresher, you're just about starting out now, what are parajumbles, you may ask? So parajumble, if you look at it, it is a cooked up word. Okay, all of us, the English faculty members, the VARC faculty members, started using parajumbles to refer to a jumbled paragraph. So basically what the examiner does is that he typically pick up a paragraph, keeping my fingers crossed because the CAT does not do that always. So basically we are talking about a question type where you have a paragraph whose sentences are jumbled, and our job is to figure out the correct order or the correct sequence of the sentences. Now, there are days when I feel like calling these questions paraformation questions. After all, we are supposed to form a paragraph out of some sentences given, but then parajumbles has caught on. It is an established word, so let us stick to that. So, okay, Sankirtana has a message, and that is, sir, it is sometimes regular formula like opening, closing link that does not work. You're absolutely right, yeah. See, when it comes to English, I hate to boil it down to formulae. And the reason is that language reflects life. You don't have a formula that works all the time in life. So I don't expect a formula to work in parajumbles either. So all of those, anybody who says, look for the opening sentence, anybody who says that to you, just ask that person this one simple thing. And that simple thing is, what are the properties of an opening sentence? I mean, if you are solving the question logically and you want to look for the opening sentence, you need to be aware of the properties of an opening sentence. And the truth is there are no such properties. They don't exist. The most common answer that you're likely to get is the general sentence comes in the beginning. No, the general, put it in the beginning. Well, no, I can take you through paragraphs where the general generic sentence actually comes in the end. So yes, those approaches will work in the sense that they are going to be right 70% of the times. If you use any such jugaad, any such formula, it is going to help you 70% of the times. But then there are 30% situations where you may end up making a mistake. And the problem is, in the exam, the parajumbles that you get, they are from that 70% group where a formula will work, or the remaining 30% where the formula won't work. We don't know that. So it is, and since we have time, okay, you have 10 months right now, if you plan to target the CAT, okay, 9.5. But Within this time, you can actually go on to become excellent at Parajumble. So we don't require formulae. So how do we approach Parajumbles? How should we really deal with this particular question? So I have often seen people use two different approaches. So there is a set of people who use an intuitive approach. So intuitive approach is where they go to a paragraph, let's say it has 4 sentences, and they'll say that, okay, I feel that that 4132 is the answer. You notice, I feel that 4132 is the answer. Now, if you ask them why, why is 4132 the answer, they won't be able to explain it to you. They just revert back to this looks the best, this feels the best. So that's an intuitive approach. Your gut feel tells you to arrange all these sentences in a particular sequence. Right? So should you use the intuitive approach, or should you rather use a scientific or a logical approach where when you arrange those sentences, you also have an answer for the sequence that you have opted for? So per se, I don't have anything against intuition. By all means, use intuition in your day-to-day life. But when it comes to Parajumbles, there are certain issues with using an intuitive approach. For example, issue number 1, you need to be a well-read individual. Your intuition develops through a lot of efforts. So if you're not a well-read individual, chances are that you may not even have that well-developed intuition for Parajumbles. That means that you would end up getting more of those questions wrong. Another issue is that we listen to our intuition when we are not under pressure. So imagine you're solving a Parajumble at your house, and then you have this tiny little voice inside of you, and that tiny voice tells you that 3 and 2 should go together. No, 3, 2, 3, 2. And you listen to it and you choose your answer accordingly. Okay, your tiny voice will tell you 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. So you'd say 3, 2, 1, 4. But in the exam, when you sit down to solve that same Parajumble, imagine that tiny voice will still tell you 3, 2, 1, 4. 3, 2, 1, 4 hai, 3, 2, 1, 4. Kar de. But now you're going to question that tiny voice. Now you're going to ask it, why? Why 3, 2, 1, 4? Why can't it be 4, 2, 1, 3? So you notice. But then that tiny voice inside of us is not the voice of reason. It cannot answer your why. And therefore you won't even listen to it in the exam. So intuitive approach works only when you don't have pressure. But when you sit down to write your actual exam, you are in a pressure zone. So this intuitive approach may not be very useful there in the examination hall. And the third issue is that intuitive approach is inconsistent. There are times when you get it right, there are times when you get it wrong, but then you can't fix it. You can't work on that intuition. And therefore, I'd recommend that if you're solving these questions intuitively, stop doing this. I will definitely, unambiguously advocate for the scientific approach, the logical approach where every sequence is backed up by some sound rationale. And then Sankirtana has a question. Let's go ahead and address that question too. In the exam, the time is running like water. Oh, it is becoming very difficult, time consuming to get PJs correct. I don't know. I think what you've talked about is a type of pressure. So learn to deal with that pressure. All right. So my guess is if you can solve a question in 90 seconds at home, then pressure will probably make you solve that question in what, 100 seconds, 110 seconds. So as long as you have budgeted this kind of time, you're good to go. And then, of course, apart from working on just the syllabus, make sure that you also work on the mental aspects of the preparation. That's going to be equally important. After all, you've seen all these athletes, they also work with some sports psychologists or mental conditioning coaches to ensure that their thought processes are also spot on. So maybe that's another area, another aspect that you can focus on. But then at this juncture, let us not worry about speed. Let us not worry about sitting in the exam. At this juncture, let us just worry about, and why worry? At this juncture, let's just work on getting these questions right. Focus on accuracy at this moment. Somewhere around June, July, we can always, back then we can switch over to working on speed as well. Fair enough? Okay, so what is this scientific approach? I'll give you a gist of it. In the classes, I can explain it in much greater detail. But the gist of the scientific approach is, number one, before I do that, have a look at this. There's a kind of question that you would actually get in logical reasoning, right? So there are 7 friends, they're standing in a row, they like different colors, and then there are a lot of clues given to you. This is not a complete question. I am not even going to ask you to solve it, but can you read this once and then we'll talk. So what do you think? What are we supposed to do in this particular question? We are supposed to arrange 7 individuals in a particular order. So we are supposed to figure out a particular sequence for these 7 individuals. So in a way, I'd say that Parajumbles are pretty close to this question type. Why? The kind of thought process that you require for this question is also the thought process that you require for Parajumbles. The only difference is, or in fact, let's say there are only 2 differences. Number one, instead of entities or objects, you are arranging some sentences. And number 2, in these questions, the clues are given to you explicitly. You very clearly told things like third person from the left likes yellow, T does not like pink, Q likes green. So you are given these clues explicitly. In Parajumble questions 2, you have clues that help you arrange each one of those sentences in a particular sequence. But those clues are not obvious. Those clues are not given to you separately as bullet points. Your job is to go ahead and locate those clues. So the basic approach is read the entire paragraph. So here when I say paragraph, I'm basically saying read all the sentences that are given to you in that jumbled order. And while reading those sentences, identify the clues that exist. And once you have managed to identify the clues, you can use them to identify sequences, figure out some sort of order, some sort of sequence, or you can even form mandatory pairs. Mandatory pair is where you are able to say that, okay, these 2 sentences must come together and in this particular order. So if I say that 1 and 4 definitely go together, then that's a mandatory pair. Sequences where I tell you that, okay, sentence 4 should come after sentence 1. Now, whether it comes immediately after or not is something that we don't comment on. So that's a sequence. Whereas 1 plus 4 is our mandatory pair. So what kind of clues do we get? There is a vast variety. There are so many things that can guide our thought process. For instance, have a look at this sentence. Do you see something that can act as a potential clue to help us put this sentence somewhere with respect to the other sentences that are given? Pooja, I think it basically tells us that there is some clue or some clues that we are missing. So once you figure out those clues, you start getting that right. So in your practice, do not put yourself under any time constraint as of now. Okay. So don't put yourself under any time constraint as of now. And just think. So for example, in this particular sentence, when I read it, in many of these trials, the moment I see these, I notice that it is a pronoun. This pronoun must refer to some noun. So if that noun exists in one of those other sentences, then I found a clue. Or have a look at this particular sentence. Do you see a clue? Do you see any clue? Subtle. I see a clue. You notice the. The is a definite article. So in a sentence, if you're saying after the war ended, chances are that there is another sentence in that paragraph which talks about which war, which talks about a specific war. So it's only when you introduce that specific war that you can use the war. Without that introduction, the war is going to be weird. So which war? Right. So the can act as a very useful clue. Or have a look at this. Do you see a clue here? See this? But. Words like but are called transitional expressions because they show a change in the idea, a shift in the idea. Right? So, but specifically shows contrast. So, if a sentence says, but many of them completely ignore the consequences that their actions might have on people, I need to have a sentence immediately before it that carries a contrasting thought, that carries an opposite thought. इसका उल्टा, इसका opposite बोलना पड़ेगा ना इसके पहले, नहीं तो but के use को कैसे justify करेंगे हम? So you notice each one of these things, they help us connect or link these sentences with the other sentences. In fact, third wale maybe you have them, you have there, you also have these pronoun clues. So we basically go ahead and use such things. And not only that, let me give you one more set of sentences. Here it is. So what do you think? What is the sequence in which you would like to put these in? श्रद्धा, टाइम मैनेजमेंट का डर इतना पहले से कैसे लग रहा है? Which exam do you plan to write? अभी तुम कौन सा एग्जाम देने वाले हो नेक्स्ट? अगर हाल फिलहाल में है तो थोड़ा डिटेल में बताएं, अगर थोड़ा टाइम है तो थोड़ा अलग अप्रोच सजेस्ट करें आपको. अब ये मैंने पता है आपको क्यों दिया ये वाला क्वेश्चन. इस क्वेश्चन में ना आपको बहुत ज्यादा ऐसे वर्ड्स नहीं दिखेंगे. You'd not really find a lot of words that will help you connect these sentences together. But you notice every sentence represents an idea. And the ideas also happen, ideas also occur in a particular sequence in our life, in our world. Ab dekho, there is a sentence which is talking about a person preparing. Then a person appearing for an exam, then results, the announcement of the result, and then the person's rank. Now tell me something. In our life, what is going to happen? A person prepares for an exam, then you sit for the exam, then a result, then the result is declared, and then your result is known, isn't it? In our day-to-day life, these ideas occur in this sequence, in this order. So if I were to arrange these, I will arrange them in that very same order. So this will be my first sentence. Then this is second, this is third, and this is fourth. So basically DBAC, right? So this time around, what did I use? I used ideas. And then I thought of the sequence in which these ideas occur in our everyday life. Can we violate this sequence while working on a parajumble, while writing? Can an author not use this sequence? Yes, an author can at times choose not to write them in this particular order, but then that will take us to an advanced level. Let us not talk about exceptions or advanced level stuff today. Let's just master the basics first. And then we can talk about the advanced level stuff some other day. So these are the kind of things that we can use to zero in on, to narrow it all down to the right answer. Okay, so let us go ahead and take this opportunity to work on some questions together. And with the help of those questions, we will be able to, in a way, sharpen our approach a little more. So here is your question number 1 on the screen right now. So I'll give you a minute to solve this question. So take your time, solve this question and share your answer with me in the chat box down below. Go ahead. बताइए क्या मार्क करेंगे? Okay, so I hope you have started developing a sort of sequence for this paragraph. हाँ, सोचा कुछ कनेक्ट किया, कहीं से कुछ चमका. Even if you think you're struggling to arrive at a final answer, it's okay. You can share your sequence. You can share maybe even if you've managed to put in a couple of sentences together with respect to each other, mandatory pair, sequence, whatever. Let's just share it. Use the chat box to think aloud. Don't worry about getting it right. So when I read the first sentence, not that one could escape into the water because a noxious spill thought to be from a scorched chemical warehouse had closed the beach. So I see, not that one could escape. The question in my mind was, escape from what? And then I see that it is talking about the water being polluted. Okay, second, shopping centers were ransacked with nothing left but decapitated mannequins lying amid broken glasses. So shopping centers were ransacked. Where? We're talking about some place, right? I don't know which place that is. Third, to travel around Durban. Oh, I see that place now. Last week was to witness scenes of wholesale devastation. So the moment I see this Durban, you realize what comes to my mind. I know that 3 should come before 2. I'm not saying immediately before, okay? It should come before. Then fourth, torched factories smoldered, the smell of burnt materials wafting on the breeze from the Indian Ocean. Now I see that third is talking about a wholesale devastation. So sentence number 2 and sentence number 4 both are talking about devastation. So I can put them as 3. So let's just keep arranging these, okay? 3, 2, 4, 1 or 3, 4, 2, 1. So 2 and 4 are talking about devastation. And from what? Now that from what is also answered devastation. So ideally you would like to put it after 2 and 4. So the question now is 2, 4 or 4, 2. Which one of the two should we choose and why? Which one? So I will personally prefer 3, 2, 4, 1. Why? Look at 1. 1 is talking about the beach. And look at 4th. On the breeze from the Indian Ocean. A sea, an ocean is what is going to have a beach. So Fourth is better before first because fourth talks about smell wafting on the breeze from the Indian Ocean. And then you may wonder that, oh, can I escape this devastation by going to the water of that ocean? But then first says that you can't do that either because even the beach is closed. Water has a noxious spill. Another thing that makes fourth closer to first is that second is talking about retail, whereas fourth and first both are talking about wholesale. Okay, chemical warehouse is not a shop, it is a warehouse. Fourth is also talking about factory. So we are talking about the industrial side and not the consumer facing side. So you realize on the whole, because of all these things, I'll prefer 3, 2, 4, 1 and not 3, 4, 2, 1. It's not that 3, 4, 2, 1 is wrong. It is just that 4 and 1 have a smoother, easier transition as compared to 2 and 1, and that is what makes it better. So there are just these subtle things, small things that we need to think over, and those things help us choose the right answer. But really good attempt, guys, really good attempt. Here is your next question. Question number 2 on your screen. What do you think? Which answer should we mark? So I'll once again give you a minute's piece and then we'll discuss. हो गया, देख लिया, डिस्कशन देखें. एंड वंस अगेन डोंट वरी, जस्ट थिंक अलाउड इन द चैट बॉक्स. कोई क्लू दिखा डाल दो, कोई सीक्वेंस यू कुड फिगर आउट सम सीक्वेंस, लेट्स पुट इट देयर एंड लेट्स वर्क ऑन दिस कलेक्टिवली. Let me go ahead and focus on what all I saw. So while you might think that you see or are aware of all such changes, which changes? To describe this tendency, which tendency? It cannot be aware of every single thing that happens in the world around you. Fourth, sometimes big shifts happen in front of your eyes and you are not at all aware of these changes. Okay, at least these changes referring to the first half of the sentence. But now if I look at this, you notice second is talking about change blindness, to describe this tendency of people to be blind to changes, though they are in the immediate environment. This tendency is referring to what is mentioned in 4. So 4 and 2 must come together. So that's one mandatory pair that I see. Then look at 3. It cannot be aware of every single thing. This it is basically referring to the brain. If you put it anywhere else, you'd lose the reference for that it. So 1 plus 3 is another mandatory pair. Now the question is, should it be 4 2 1 3 or should it be 1 3 4 2? So far we have at least boiled it down to these two sequences, these two orders. Now first talks about such changes. So because we are talking about such changes, this such should refer to whatever has been put in 2 or 4. Ideally, because such changes is mentioned, it should come afterwards, so that we are able to refer to the changes mentioned in sentence 2, sentence 4. And going by that, if I say that either 4 or 2, at least one of these two should come before 1, we can eliminate 1, 3, 4, 2 and narrow it down to 4, 2, 1, 3. So 4, 2, 1, 3. So now this time around, if you ask me for my reasons, you notice I have reasons behind every placement, behind every situation. And that is what we are after. We just want to offer sound, concrete, rational, logical reasons. That's what scientific approach is all about. So I prefer 4, 2, 1, 3. Now, if you put 2 afterwards, okay. So for instance, I saw 4, 1, 3, 2. The problem is that you won't have any reference for this tendency in sentence number. Sorry, 2 was put at the end, right? So you don't have any reference for this tendency in sentence number 3. So remember, pronouns don't have a long reach. Whatever noun that they are referring to must come before them. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एक सेंटेंस डाला जिसमें नाउन था, फिर बीच में कोई और 2 सेंटेंस में कोई दूसरे नाउन्स डाल दिए, फिर उसके बाद एक प्रोनाउन डाला जो पहले सेंटेंस वाले नाउन को रेफर कर पाए. वो ऐसे चलेगा नहीं यार, वो बीच वाले नाउन्स को रेफर करने लग जाएगा फिर. So we'd have this problem with the ambiguity there. We'd not be able to refer to the antecedent of that pronoun correctly. Here is the next question for you. What's your answer? And keep on sharing the thoughts. Clue share करो, sequences share करो, mandatory pairs share करो. साथ साथ सोचते हैं ना. Let us think together. We're covering basics, right? So let's think together and then see what we want. Okay. So Shraddha has a thought to share. Anything else? So chaliye. Pliny wrote that within his lifetime only a single stalk was discovered. Question is, of what? So you notice I'm just looking at those gaps, thinking of where to put what. Some think it was driven to extinction. Others that it is still hiding in plain sight. Okay. With just a handful of stylized images and the account of ancient naturalists to go on, images of what? The true identity of the Romans' favorite herb is a mystery. Okay. Fourth says, but today Silphium has vanished. Ooh, now I have a name. So the moment I see this, you notice the it in 2 is referring to Silphium. Images of what? Silphium. Single stack of what? Silphium. So on the basis of this, I can tell you that because fourth gives you the name, fourth needs to come before 1, 2 and 3. That settles it. So our question or concern could be that, oh, but fourth starts with but. Can a paragraph start with but? My answer is yes. What stops us? Who says that the examiner will give us the very first paragraph of an article? What if the examiner picks up a paragraph from the middle? And you'd find plenty of paragraphs in the middle that start with expressions which don't look like the opening sentence expressions. So then that's how it is. That's why I don't like to think of opening and closing. Okay. So fourth, before 1, 2 and 3. Now I like 2 after 4. Some think it was driven to extinction, others that it is still hiding in plain sight. But then where do I put in 1? And look at sentence 3. It is talking about a mystery. So the moment I see it is a mystery, second sentence explains that mystery. So we don't know what happened. Some people think it is extinct, others say it is hiding in the plain sight. That's a mystery. We don't know what happened, and there are such divergent views. There is a view that says it is not at all in existence, and there is a view that says that it is everywhere as a weed now. So that second sentence goes better with the idea of the mystery. So I'd put it as 3 and 2, and that means that the only place I can put in 1. Now I cannot put in 1 after 3 and 2. I cannot put in 1 before sentence 4. So the only place for 1 now is between these two groups. Okay, 4 and then 3, 2. In between you put in 1. So we basically go ahead and choose 4, 1, 3, 2 as our answer. This was tricky. It was tricky because that but will make us feel, ye opening thode na. This can't be the opening, so we'll skip it. But then if you look at all the other clues, you'd realize that you won't have a choice but to put 4 at the beginning. I deliberately chose this question so that in case you're still thinking in terms of opening sentences, etc., you at least get a jolt of awakening. Oh, यार विक्रांत ठीक बोल रहा था, नहीं करना चाहिए ऐसा. Okay, here is the next question. Slightly longer, but I personally like longer questions because it increases the probability of finding the right set of clues. So tell me. Tell me what you think. And once again, feel free to think aloud, okay? If you're not able to zero in on the right answer, it's still fine. और अभी तक अगर काम करके मजा आ रहा है, तुम्हें लग रहा है, सीख रहे हो कि अरे यार बट से भी शुरू हो सकता है, सब है. In case you're learning and you believe that it is benefiting you, show that by pressing the like button. Okay, so I have some answers now. So let us work on this. So sentence 1, you have experienced, you notice this collaborative filtering firsthand. And then look at sentence 4. This is giving you, you can call it a definition, or you can call it an introduction of collaborative filtering. The moment I see this collaborating filtering, I know that these two are connected, so I need to have 4 and 1 as a mandatory pair. Okay. Then if you look at 2, the problem with these algorithms is that they don't take into account a host of nuances and circumstances. Now these algorithms, which algorithms? See, a mathematical algorithm. So you have that algorithm mentioned prior somewhere. Then third, if you just bought a gardening book for your cousin, so you realize third is basically giving you an example of how these algorithms do not take into account a host of nuances. You are not interested in a book on gardening, you bought it as a gift, but then you are being now shown more such recommendations. So third is essentially an example for 2, which means that I need to have 2 plus 3. And these algorithms, the problem with these algorithms must come after sentence 4. So if I combine all of these things together, I'd say that our answer needs to be 4, 1, 2, 3. There you go. Divij, that was pretty close. We just needed to get that order right. Okay, these algorithms had to talk about collaborative filtering, and other such algorithms. So it's pretty close. And then, but then you rearranged them. You turned it into 3, 2. You treated it as an introduction for the paragraph where it is better suited as an example for what is mentioned in point number 2. But it's all right. As I said, we have no negative marking for sharing your answer. In fact, the more mistakes we make during our practice, the better we go on to become for our actual exam. मतलब मैं तो कभी कभी मानता भी हूँ, the essence of practice is हम में से हर एक बंदे ने ना एक कुछ गलतियां करनी है. हाँ, एक certain number of mistakes करेंगे हम लोग, right? Once you are done with that certain number of mistakes, all of us are going to make a certain number of mistakes. Once you are done with those certain number of mistakes, you will start getting your questions right. So the sooner you get rid of, the sooner you make all those mistakes, the better it is for you. And nobody knows that number, okay? Nobody knows how many mistakes you are supposed to make. Nobody knows that. But the sooner you go ahead and make all those mistakes, the better it is for you. That's why practice is important. तो गलतियां हैं, भगवान ने बोल के भेजा है कि यार ये बंदा ना x नंबर ऑफ मिस्टेक्स करेगा, उसके बाद इसके पैराजम्बल्स अच्छे होंगे. वो x कुछ लोगों के लिए 100 होगा, कुछ के लिए 500 होगा, वट एवर इट इज. हाँ, वो हमें नहीं पता, तुम्हें नहीं पता, किसी को नहीं पता. तो जितना जल्दी वो गलतियां करेंगे उतना जल्दी एक्यूरेसी की तरफ बढ़ेंगे. तो खुल के गलती करो यार. गलती करने में क्या जाता है? सही करने में मेंटली लोड आता है, गलती करने में कौन सी प्रॉब्लम है? तो साथ में काम करो, करो गलतियां, और फिर करते करते देखना एक दिन गलतियां करनी बंद कर दोगे तुम. Right? Here is the next one. Go ahead and take a shot. छोटा सा 4 सेंटेंस वाला सवाल. कैट में पिछले कुछ सालों से 4 सेंटेंसेस ही आ रहे हैं. सो जस्ट स्टिकिंग टू दैट फॉर टुडे. Ready? करें डिस्कस? ओके, दिविज हैज शेयर्ड हिज आंसर. गिव मी वन मोर, एक और आंसर दो यार, फिर शुरू करते हैं. दिविज इस बार चेंज करना है कुछ? Okay, so I have one more answer. So let's see. That Hollywood is a man's world is certainly true, but it is not the whole truth. Okay, just one idea. Even Renaissance film actress Jodie Foster, who hosts this compendium of movie history, confesses surprise at this. She says that she had no idea that women were so active in the industry even in those days. During the silent era, for example, female script writers outnumber males 10 to 1. So it's an example of what? I think the only sentence whose example this can be is sentence 1. It is a man's world, but it is not the whole truth. So here you're talking about an aspect of filmmaking which was dominated by female script writers in a particular era, right? So keeping that in mind, I think we need to have 1 plus 4. Then this she is basically connecting it to Jodie Foster. Even this was surprised at this what? This ratio. So I need to have 4 plus 2. And this she refers to Jodie Foster, so I need to have 2 plus 3. Now if you combine all of these, you will get 1, 4, 2 and 3. So it's all about spotting those clues and then solving these questions. So that's what we are after, right? So Akash, I hope you see the different clues that are scattered around and how we went on to use them. But it's just a basic session. I think we'll keep bringing on many more such sessions for you. So my suggestion is start with multiple choice questions. Just solve 5 questions a day, but focus on getting it right. Focus on sharpening your arguments, sharpening your reasons for a sentence, for the place of a sentence in that paragraph. And that's what you should do for the next 5 odd weeks. After 5 weeks, you can move over to non-MCQs and just stick to once again 5 questions a day. Do it for 5 weeks and then we can reassess and see if we need to fine-tune our strategy further. So that's it from me today. There is a thought that I wanted to share with you. That is, life is a succession of lessons which must be lived to be understood. And that's how Parajumbles are. The succession of mistakes, succession of clues. So we must go through those questions, maybe make some mistakes, and then is those mistakes that basically give you those lessons, right? So stick to it, keep learning those lessons, and in case you want to talk more, in case you want to know more, we have a new batch for CAT 23 available. In the classes, we are able to go far deeper into the concepts, look at many more intricacies, maybe work at an advanced level eventually. And it's easily one of the most exhaustive courses that you have around. As you can see, 300 recorded lectures plus 135 live sessions, which basically means more than 200 hours of sessions with us. Right? So a lot of content, lot of work with the faculty member along with the practice material. And you can appear for the scholarship test and save a neat amount to make it easier for you to join us. Additionally, on the 11th of February, we have Srinivasan sir who's taking this session on how to manage CAT prep along with your job, right? So fabulous session if you're somebody who wants to know about time management and to get a real life experience. Just go ahead and appear for the All India Maharashtra CET mock that we have. It will start on 11th of February and that will tell you where you stand today. And we are wherever you are, so make sure that you follow us everywhere. And if you have any question you can drop it at any of these at any of these media, and we'd love to take care of your query. So that is it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys once again really soon. And until then, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Okay. And oh,